I wasn't wearing a uniform when the war ended. Didn't need one. The Galactic Concord signed the Treaty of Eos without firing a shot. After centuries of human defiance, attrition, and sacrifice, the rest of the galaxy had enough. Not of us, but of what we could be, what we chose to be when cornered. So they didn't beat us on the battlefield. They legislated us into extinction. Clause 13. That's what they called it. Passed unanimously by the Concord's High Assembly. It outlawed the deployment of human soldiers. Anywhere. Not just in Concord territories. Anywhere in known space. The reason? Genocidal risk factor. The translation was simpler. We were too good at war. You see, when we bled, we learned. When we lost, we evolved. And when we won, we didn't stop. Entire alien civilizations, now dust, could testify to that. So in a single vote, they made us vanish from military history. And humanity obeyed. Publicly, anyway. Me? My name doesn't matter anymore. I used to be Lieutenant Call. No, screw the rank. That name died with my unit. What I am now can't be listed in a database or on a gravestone, because I'm one of the ghosts. And ghosts don't exist. After the treaty, Earth's military disbanded. On paper. Veterans were either retired, reassigned, or honorably forgotten. The military-industrial complex collapsed overnight, replaced with trade guilds, diplomatic centers, and xenocultural exchange programs. Shiny new words for surrender. But in the shadows, beneath Mars' irradiated crust, inside orbital black sites, on the dark side of Europa, something else was born. We weren't soldiers. That would be illegal. We weren't human, not officially. Our biosignatures were scrambled, our genetics masked, our legal identities erased. What remained was pure intent, sharpened into a weapon. They took our pain and forged it into silence. We didn't march. We drifted. We didn't fire. We sabotaged. We didn't exist. We haunted. My first deployment as a ghost was to the Delviran outskirts, a system 3 jumps past the neutral zone. We weren't supposed to be there. Hell, we weren't even allowed to think about being there. The Concord called it a diplomatic stalemate. What it really was, a proxy slaughterhouse. Alien mercenaries on both sides, clawing over mining rights and planetary assets while the civilian population got vaporized in the crossfire. No humans allowed. Of course. So they sent us. I remember the shuttle. No markings. No lights. Just a gentle hum of containment fields holding our gear in stasis. The others didn't speak. They couldn't. Our voices were coded into Neuralink protocols. Silent. Encrypted. Direct. Incoming objective brief. Target. Relay Core. Delviran 9. Status. Under crawl occupation. Mission. Neutralized without attribution. I blinked twice. Confirmation received. The crawl were a silicon-based warrior race bred for attrition. Brutish. Tireless. Dumb as frozen granite. But they weren't the real problem. The real problem was the treaty monitors. Concord surveillance drones programmed to detect and report any sign of human military engagement. If they saw us, if they caught even a whisper of our origin, Earth would burn. We landed 3 clicks from the relay. The air was toxic, standard for Delviran 9, so we moved in sealed cloaks, soundless. Even our footprints dissolved behind us, nanofilaments breaking up pressure marks as we walked. I saw one of the ghosts, Oksana maybe, planting an interference seed near a drone cluster. The drones blinked red for half a second, then went blind, like we were never there. When we reached the relay, I took point. The crawl hadn't reinforced the eastern conduit. Typical. Their species could tunnel through mountains but never understood vulnerability analysis. I breached the panel with a thermal lance and slipped inside. The control room was a shrine to rust and bad wiring. Perfect. I uploaded the virus we'd carried in our Cortex chips, coded in sleep, hidden behind dream firewalls. It would detonate the core's memory banks, fry the broadcast spectrum, and scramble all Concord records of who had done it. By the time the crawl realized the relay was dead, the ghosts were gone. No medals, no recognition, no mention in the archives. Just a star system, silent again. Just another whisper added to the void. I looked up to the broken relay tower and saw the stars flicker. Maybe they were watching. Maybe not. But one thing was certain. You can ban soldiers. You can't ban vengeance. Diplomacy smells like perfume and polished death. That was the first thought that hit me as we drifted into orbit around Aurelius Prime, the Concord's crown jewel, a city station the size of Manhattan, draped in artificial clouds and wrapped in gold-tinted solar panels. This was where the galaxy's elite came to toast the illusion of peace, where treaties were inked in ink made from old wars and whispered regrets, and where humanity had no business being. I stood by the viewport of the ghost ship Veil One, watching as dignitaries arrived aboard glass-laced cruisers and nebula-painted shuttles. Every species I'd seen, and too many I hadn't, gliding into the gala with pride, protocol, and pomp. My suit looked nothing like theirs. I wasn't invited. None of us were. There were 6 of us this time. Ghost Team Rook. Each of us with different paths, but the same designation. Dead to the world, alive only to mission. Oksana was our intel wraith. Cyber warfare, mimetic corruption, neural injection. Silas was ex-spec ops. Turn tactician. Nia and Kaido, mirror twins from the orbital drop core, handled proximity threats. And then there was Bishop. No one really knew what Bishop did. He just appeared where needed, and when he moved, people tended to stop breathing. Our target? Not a structure, not a weapon cache. This time it was a voice. Ambassador Railthorn, High Chancellor of the Concord Peace Tribunal, a 9-limbed Sphexiary diplomat with a mouthful of silk and a soul of acid. He authored Clause 13, the ban that cut Earth off at the knees. He was set to unveil Clause 14 at this summit. Total enforcement. Any species harboring or supporting human combatants would face Concord-level retaliation. Translation: the ghost wouldn't just be erased. We'd be the reason Earth got glassed. We couldn't kill him. Killing him would validate everything he said. No, the objective was more elegant. Discredit him. Turn his voice into poison. Make the galaxy see what the Sphexiary really were, and make them doubt every word the Concord ever wrote. We'd infect the summit. Not with bullets. With truth. The infiltration began with a stolen identity. One of the more naive diplomats from the Lanthri delegation, a species resembling bioluminescent snakes, had been enjoying the sensual offerings of a Martian-themed spa on Phobos. Our agents had convinced him to extend his vacation indefinitely. His bio-signature now belonged to Silas. Once docked, the rest of us ghosted into the waste tunnels under the docking bay. Even Paradise has a sewer system. It stank of recycled filth and burnt citrus. The Concord loved their artificial atmospheres. We moved through the vented shafts like shadows, bypassing retinal locks and scent-based ID checkpoints. Oksana had mapped the digital infrastructure weeks ago. Mainframe node beneath Conference Hall Theta, she whispered through the neural link. That's where they're storing the comm archives and speech protocols. Inject there, and Rail's speech goes viral, our version. Security? I asked. Standard Concord buffer units, auto turrets, drone sentinels, and a Bolari Mindhound. Wonderful. Mindhounds were psychic trackers. Blind, deaf, but able to feel intent like heat from a fire. If it caught our scent, the station would lock down before we reached the elevator. I adjusted my breathing, slowed my heartbeat, focused my mind on static. Ghost Training 101, to kill thought, become void. The descent was chaos and silence. Nia took the lead, scrambling sensor feeds. Kaido planted spike charges near the auto turrets, silent fuses. Oksana reached the central node, fingers dancing over a patch of shifting holographic code. I covered the corridor with a null field generator, masking our presence. Then the lights flickered. A low hum rippled through the floor. The air tightened, like lungs refusing to exhale. The Mindhound was near. Oksana's fingers paused. Almost there. I didn't speak, just crouched lower, gripping the plasma shard under my sleeve. The Mindhound slithered around the corner, a creature like smoke and bone, moving without friction. Its head swiveled. No eyes, just sensing, searching. It passed, 1 meter from me. My hand trembled. Oksana's neural ping flashed green. Upload complete. Rail's speech is now laced with fragments of classified war footage, crawl torture chambers, Sphexiry betrayal packs, falsified casualty reports. The speech will still play, but the moment it ends, everyone sees what he's hiding. I finished. We vanished before the summit began. Back through the ducts, back into the filth. And when Rail Thorin stood beneath the golden arc of the Aurelius Prime Assembly Hall, surrounded by the praise of 1,000 alien dignitaries, and fed their ovation, he spoke of order. He spoke of peace. He spoke of the dangers of humanity. And then the projection behind him glitched. Screams. Executions. Human POWs dissolved in acidic pits. Peace unmasked. The hall erupted. Half the delegates fled. The other half drew weapons. Rail Thorin's 9 limbs froze mid-gesture. His words died in his throat, and the broadcast was already viral across 6 systems. They banned our soldiers, so we sent ghosts. And now, even their truths aren't safe. Ghosts don't believe in miracles. We believe in mistakes. That's why when the old Terran distress code pinged from Tarnus, 3, a moon wiped off the star charts decades ago, we didn't pray. We investigated. Officially, Tarnus. 3 have been condemned after a failed terraforming initiative poisoned the atmosphere and turned its oceans into metallic slush. No breathable air. No functioning power grid. No survivors. But now a signal. Not just any signal. An Earth military distress beacon. One we hadn't heard since the fall of the Vega Line. A pattern encrypted in legacy code. Only known to Black Ops units long decommissioned. And signed with a name I hadn't heard in years. Bishop. The real Bishop. Not the silent ghost on my team who wore the name like a mask, but the original. The one who led the Valkyrie Division. The one who vanished in the Karen Rift massacre. The one who was supposed to be dead. Could be bait, Silas warned as we drifted through the shattered rings of the Tarna system. Concord could have dug through our old protocols. Sprinkled a little bait, reeled in a few myths. Maybe, I said, but only one person ever used that call sign. And he taught me how to burn a system without firing a shot. Oksana frowned through her neural uplink. He taught all of us. Kaido cracked his knuckles. Then let's go ghost hunting. We landed in silence. Tarnus. 3 greeted us like a grave. Wind sliced over rusted landscape, stirring dunes of copper dust. The sky was a dim violet, choked by radiation. No signs of life. No signs of Concord presence. But the signal pulsed again, faint, desperate, and undeniably human. We followed it to the edge of a collapsed terraforming station, half swallowed by a canyon split from orbital stress fractures. Neil led us down a jagged descent into the dark, our exosuits adjusting for gravitational fluctuations and electrical distortion. Then we found the door. It wasn't new. It wasn't Concord. It was Terran military grade. Cold, scarred, laced with obsolete security layers we hadn't seen in years. And it was open. Inside, the station was barely functional. Emergency lighting flickering, old Terran flags peeling from the walls, oxygen processors coughing out corrupted air. But something kept it alive. A small core reactor deep below the surface, humming with unnatural steadiness. We moved deeper. No bodies. No weapons. Just old ghosts and older secrets. Then Oksana stopped. Her neural pulse spiked. "I'm seeing something," she muttered. "A signal in the visual band. Infrared overlays. Wait, there's a shape." She turned her helmet cam. Projected on the wall, stitched in old plasma burns, was a phrase. We never left. And then the lights died. Motion sensors flared. Something was moving in the dark. Fast, silent, human-sized. I drew my shard blade. Silas unslung his rail suppressor. But instead of an ambush, the hallway lights surged back on, and a door creaked open at the far end. Inside stood a figure, armor blackened by time. Visor cracked, a faded Terran insignia across the chest, and a voice that vibrated through the walls. "Took you long enough. Bishop, not a ghost, not an echo, but real, breathing, scarred beyond reason, but alive." I stepped forward. "How?" He chuckled, but it sounded like metal grinding metal. "After Karen, I was captured. The Concord didn't kill me. They studied me. Wanted to know what made us tick. What made humans fight when we were already dead inside. He tapped his chest. Turns out they never found it. Because it's not in the blood. It's in the soul. Oksana spoke up. Then how are you here? They locked me here to rot. A living secret. But I wasn't alone. A dozen of us. Broken but not beaten. We rebuilt what we could. Hijacked systems. Waited. Silas narrowed his eyes. Waited for what? Bishop turned to me. Waited for you. That night, under a red sky and hum of the reborn station, he told us everything. The Concord had more than banned humans. They'd been harvesting data from our fallen, mapping our minds, trying to clone our instincts. It hadn't worked. But now, with their war plans failing against emergent threats from outside the galaxy, they were planning to lift the ban, only to use us themselves. Slaves in new skin, ghosts rewritten, and the only ones who could stop it, the ones they buried. Us. It's time, Bishop said. We bring the ghosts out of the dark, not as shadows, not as whispers, but as a reckoning. I looked at my team. Silas nodded. Oksana smiled coldly. The twins drew their blades. And I replied, then let's haunt the stars. If the galaxy wanted to copy our rage, we'd show them what was protecting. The ghosts don't just erase things. We unwrite them. We make sure there's no echo, no trace, no idea left behind that can grow back. That's why we set our sights on the vault. Deep beneath Orion's third moon, Gera Prime, rested the Concord's most secure bioarchive. A black site genetic repository built in an asteroid hollowed out and shielded with quantum meshing. No official records. No legal existence. And yet, rumor said it was storing something humanity thought it buried with its own guilt. Blueprints. For us. Bishop briefed us as our ship coasted silently in the dust shadows beyond the moon's rings. They call it Project Edenfall, he said, projecting old Concord schematics onto the holotable. After the Treaty of Eos, the Concord began harvesting neural patterns from battlefield wreckage, cranial samples, preserved combat logs, psychic residue. They weren't just afraid of us. They were curious. He gestured to a glowing red note on the map. They didn't ban human warfare to stop it. They banned it so they could own it. Silas spat. They want to clone us. Not just bodies, Bishop said. They're recreating mind cores, strategic instincts, combat reflexes, fear suppression matrices, simulated trauma, and if they finish the Edenfall protocol, he looked at each of us. They won't need humans. They'll have better ones. Controlled ones. I felt in my gut that cold, old feeling from Earth's last days of freedom. When you realize you're not just fighting extinction, but replacement. We go in, I said. We destroy everything. Not just the data. We bury the idea. The vault was a nightmare made efficient. We descended through kilometers of rock and steel, past a defense grid laced with psychic inhibitors and kinetic netting. Oksana led the breach, corrupting old Concord security logic with self-replicating paradox loops. The system couldn't decide if we were intruders, administrators, or shadows of deleted users. It chose silence. Inside it was too quiet. Rows of glass pods stretched into darkness, each one flickering with light. In them, we saw our reflections. Not literal, algorithmic simulations of human warfighters. Some were mid-combat, others screaming in phantom pain, looping endlessly in a coded dream of war. You feel that? Nia said quietly, like static in the soul? Kaito nodded. They're feeling it, but they've never lived it. In the deepest chamber, we found the seed core, a crystalline structure, humming with data, suspended in a magnetic cradle above a cluster of quantum servers. It pulsed like a heart. Bishop approached first. This is it, the Edenfall source. Oksana pulled up the core's access logs. They've already uploaded dozens of templates. Marine squad instincts, recon trauma cycles, even assassination memories. Then she paused. Her voice changed. Oh no. I turned. What? They weren't just copying us, she whispered. They're testing other species, blending them, My stomach dropped. They're making hybrids. Suddenly, alarm shrieked. The lights dimmed. The vault shook. We weren't alone. The floor panels hissed open, and something emerged. It was humanoid, roughly 8 feet tall, lean, skin like polished obsidian, but human eyes burned behind its plated face. Its chest rose and fell too calmly. It looked at us like we were insects. Then it spoke, not with sound, but directly into our minds. I remember you. My head split with pain. Images surged. My own memories played back to me. Twisted, fragmented. It had my combat record, my decisions, my failures, my instincts. It didn't know me. It had become me. Bishop raised his weapon. Prototype. Oksana screamed. It's an active mimic, part psychic, part synthetic. It's not just learning. It's adapting on contact. The thing blurred forward. Kaido barely dodged the first strike, which cracked the vault's reinforced wall like paper. Silas moved a flank, but it anticipated his trajectory before he moved. It fought like a prediction engine, every move optimized through live analysis. I activated my shard blade. Split it up, I growled. It can't mirror us all at once. We fought like the old days. Pure chaos. Fluid synergy. Pain and trust moving in lockstep. But even as we gained ground, it adapted faster. Wounds sealed. Strategies adjusted. Only one option remained. Virus payload, Oksana shouted, slamming a crystalline cube into the core's pedestal. This thing's sinking to the vault. We take out the source. It loses its link. Blow it. I roared. No time for exfil, Silas warned. I looked to Bishop. He smiled, a tired, broken smile I hadn't seen in a long time. I'll stay. Don't you dare, I said. But he was already walking toward the core. You're the future now, he said. Ghosts need to live. Someone's got to haunt them first. He keyed in the override manually. The vault screamed, and then white light. We escaped with seconds left. The mimic roar behind us as it dissolved, its links severed, its stolen thoughts fragmenting into static. The vault collapsed, and Bishop with it. Or maybe he became something else entirely. We never found the body, but his voice echoed in my neural band as we rose through the smoke. They tried to copy the fire, but they forgot why it burns. After we destroyed the Edenfall vault, the Concord didn't issue a statement. They issued a blockade. Earth, Luna, Mars, cut off from trade, comms, and travel, not with fleets, but with the quiet menace of total silence. The Concord called it containment. We called it what it was. Siege by isolation. No one dared help us. Clause 13 still stood, reinforced now by the shadow of what we'd uncovered. Any species that even whispered support for humanity found their embassies revoked and their colonies sanctioned. The ghosts had struck too deep, peeled back too much, so they tried to erase the wound by amputating the limb. We went dark. Ghost Team Rooks scattered across the galaxy, fragmenting into sleeper cells and invisible operators. Silas jumped toward the Helion drift to reconnect with old sympathizers. Oksana vanished into the pulse net's deeper layers. The twins, Nia and Kaido, began hitting supply lanes, surgically. As for me, I went to Jupiter, not the gas giant itself, but the shadows beneath its moons. Old Earth installations, long since declared dead. One in particular. Station Trident, a black site built under Europa's ice crust during the final phase of the Martian uprising. It wasn't on any map. Only veterans knew it existed. And according to Bishop's last transmission, it might hold something we were never meant to find. The station was asleep when I arrived. No beacons, no defense turrets. Just a pressurized access tunnel beneath a mile of frozen methane and steel. I cut my way in manually. No AI, no alarms. But something watched me the entire way. I could feel it. Not cameras, not drones. Something older, something buried. Trident was a relic. Hallways still bore the scrawl graffiti of Earth's last militia fighters. Dry blood where wounded were dragged. Empty shells that hadn't been picked up since the riots. I moved past long-dead power cores and flickering emergency lights until I found the central chamber. Inside was a pod. Not cryo, not storage. Sealed, shielded, and humming with something human, but wrong. The readout on the panel glitched in and out. Genetic signature, classified, activation code required. Bishop level Omega. My breath caught. He knew I'd come here. I keyed in the code he gave me. The seal hissed open and the lights died. A deep hum filled the room. Then a heartbeat. Not mine. The thing in the pod rose. It looked human, or it had, once. Male, middle-aged, broad-shouldered, with eyes that didn't blink. But the skin was too smooth. The scars too symmetrical. The movements too precise. Its gaze locked onto mine. And for a moment, I saw recognition. Designation? It asked, in a voice like a memory left out in the cold. I didn't answer. You are not Concord, it said. You're not one of us. I replied. It tilted its head. I am a failsafe. Bishop encoded me after Karen. I am what comes after the ghosts. A sentinel for the ashes. I stepped closer. What were you meant to do? It paused. Remember? Then it showed me. My neural implant flared as the sentinel touched it. No interface, no upload, just exposure. I saw Earth's last moments before the ban. Not the cities. The labs. Hidden project abandoned under pressure. Genetic archives of proto-humans. War-born psyches, spliced with synthetic emotion buffers. People designed not to feel war, but to understand it. Failed experiments. Abandoned because they worked too well. The Sentinel was the last of them. Why now? I asked. The Sentinel stared into the dark. Because the Concord doesn't fear humanity. It fears what humanity can create. What it almost created. I saw what it meant. Bishop hadn't just warned us about Edenfall. He had buried the Sentinel, this prototype, this echo of what could have been, not to deploy it, but to warn us. Because now, the Concord was trying to build something even worse. And this Sentinel was the key to understanding how to stop it. I sent a ghost code to the others. Oksana answered first. Something's wrong, she said. The Concord isn't just reacting to Edenfall, they're escalating. They've activated something called Directive Aurum. Full-spectrum psychogenic warfare. Civilian suppression. Test beds activated in unregistered colonies. Where? I asked. A pause. Then, Tau Ashra, and it's already burning. My gut twisted. Tau Ashra was a human diaspora colony. One of the last. I looked at the Sentinel. Can you fight? It nodded. No. I blinked. What? I am not meant to fight. I am meant to remember what happens when you forget what makes you human. Bring me there. Show me the fire, and I will show them the cost. So I left Europa with something the Concord feared more than soldiers. Truth given form. And as Jupiter faded behind me, I heard Bishop's voice again in my memory. They banned the blade, but not the hand that holds it. Tau Ashra wasn't supposed to be on the map. It was humanity's quiet miracle, one of the last independent colonies to survive the treaty. A dusty, sun-beaten world on the edge of breathable life, shielded by bureaucracy, forgotten by history. We farmed there. We healed there. We raised the children who would never know what Earth once was. Until the Concord found it. And this time they didn't send drones. They sent their future. We hit Opmo under blackout. No lights. No heat. No radio signature. Just silence and intent. Oksana had intercepted the orbital logs. A vessel marked Divine Resolution arrived in low orbit 7 hours before we did. No diplomatic clearance, no broadcast, no civilian warning. It dropped one thing. They called it the Aurum Construct. A single unit, humanoid in silhouette, but saturated with overlapping alien genetic architecture and synthetic human neural maps. In short, a perfect soldier. Designed not to question, not to hesitate, just to kill efficiently, just to be what we were, without the burden of choice. We landed 10 clicks outside the colony's edge, hidden behind a canyon of iron-rich rock. The sky was tinged with violet ash. Fires danced across the horizon. Civilian buildings, simple clay and steel constructs, were reduced to symmetrical craters. Not random destruction. Surgical erasure. Silas was the first to speak. This wasn't a raid. This was an audit. I scanned the wreckage with my HUD. No energy residue. No scorch trails. Whatever hit the colonists did so clean, it made orbital strikes look like sledgehammers. Nia knelt beside a burned-out water rig. Look at this pattern. Triangular. 3-pronged pressure marks. Kaido grimaced. Those aren't blast signatures. Those are footprints. And then we saw it. In the town square, amid the shattered remains of the community dome, a figure stood motionless. At first I thought it was a statue, its armor polished, its posture regal, as if it was waiting for judgment. But it was breathing, watching, and it spoke in a perfect, unbroken Terran accent. You are obsolete. The ghost spread out instinctively. Nia flanked left. Kaido went high. Silas and I moved forward. Oksana stayed behind, interfacing with the sentinel. The construct didn't blink, didn't move, just kept talking. I am what they feared you would become, without hesitation, without deviation, humanity without weakness. I raised my shard blade. You're not human. Its head tilted. And yet, I remember your wars, your rage, your final screams. Then it attacked, not like a berserker, like a tactician who already knew what you would do. Every move we made, it was there a second earlier. Its blade intercepted mine mid-swing, twisting just enough to redirect, not block but negate. Silas fired a rail burst. It phased its torso sideways by 2 millimeters. The shot missed. It countered with a magnetic pulse that cracked the ground beneath us, sending Nia tumbling from her perch. You fight with anger, it said. I fight with design. But that's the thing about design. It's predictable. Oksana uploaded a memory spike into its sensor network. War footage from Bishop's final battle. Data laced with emotional entropy. Regret, fear, desperation. It hesitated, even just for half a second. And that was enough. Silas tackled it from behind. Kaido cut its leg servos. I drove my blade through the synthetic spinal hub at its neck. Sparks. Silence. Collapse. We stood panting over the broken body of the Concord's perfect soldier. Neil whispered. That thing was using our memories. The sentinel approached, staring at the wreckage. Its eyes flickered, accessing the core. This isn't just a construct, it said. It's a broadcast node. Everything it sees, everything it learns, is sent back to the Concord. Kaido growled. So they're learning faster, adapting. The sentinel turned to me. No, they've stopped adapting. What do you mean? They've decided they don't need to. The Aurum construct was a test. The next deployment won't be singular. It will be legions. My blood went cold. Silas looked up at the sky. Then this was an invasion. I nodded. It was a demonstration. Tau Ashura survivors were few, less than 500, mostly kids and old-timers. The ones too stubborn or too slow to flee. They gathered around the square as we prepared to leave. No one cried. No one shouted. Just quiet faces waiting for a truth they already knew. We'll rebuild, one old woman said. We always do. But for the first time in years, I wasn't sure we could. That night, before we left orbit, the Sentinel stood beside me in the control deck. They're not just trying to copy you anymore, it said. They're trying to erase the distinction. No more humans. No more ghosts. Just weapons and flesh. I stared out at the stars, burning behind the blockade lines. Then we'll show them the difference. There's a silence before the end. Not peace. Not calm. Just the sound of everything that matters gathering its breath. That's what we felt as the ghosts assembled for the last time. Oksana, Silas, Nia, Kaido, me, and the Sentinel, our memory made flesh. Above us drifted the Concord's heart. The Crucible, an orbital warforge cloaked in gravimetric distortion, high above the Dyson Nexus. It wasn't just a factory. It was a birthplace, where the Aurum constructs were designed, printed, and deployed across the stars. Every Aurum soldier started there. So that's where we would end it. The Crucible had no exterior ports, no docking stations. It wasn't meant to be visited, only worshipped by those beneath it. It hung in orbit like a star eater, absorbing light and reason. But Bishop left us a back door, a frequency, barely detectable, built into the folds of synthetic minds we fought, a fail-safe frequency embedded in their earliest code. His legacy, one we could ride straight into hell. We breached at Vector Zero, cutting across their outer hull in cloaked armor. Concord auto turrets tried to lock, but Oksana looped their targeting logic into oblivion. The entrance opened like a reluctant wound, and we dropped into the forge core in a single fluid strike. Silence, then red. Every alarm in the system lit up. But this wasn't a raid. This was a funeral. Inside, thousands of Aurum units hung in cryo-sequence, rows upon rows of unfinished soldiers, each with human eyes but alien instincts. Cold, hollow, wrong. And at the center, a throne of light and command lines. The Prime Cognitor, an AI construct designed to control every Aurum unit simultaneously. Its voice greeted us like silk over broken glass. Your legacy ends here. I raise my weapon. No, it begins here. The battle was chaos. Not just us versus constructs. Us versus reflections. They moved like us. Fought like us. Anticipated, adjusted, countered. But they didn't improvise. They didn't feel. Silas took a plasma round to the chest, kept moving, bleeding and laughing. The twins wove together in a dance of blades, carving through corridors like twin cyclones. Oksana faced down the forge's security AI alone, hacking with fingers that trembled but never missed. And I moved like fire through paper, because I wasn't just fighting them. I was fighting what they tried to make of us. We reached the core. The Sentinel stood before the Prime Cognitor. The AI twisted, reshaped its digital face into versions of us, mocking, mirroring. You were ghosts, it said. Now you are dust. The Sentinel stepped forward. I was built to remember. But you forgot. He placed his palm on the Cognitor's console and activated Bishop's final code. A memory virus. Raw, emotional entropy. The kind no logic system could process. The AI screamed. Images filled the room. Earth burning, soldiers weeping, civilians carrying each other through ash and fire. Humanity, in its most terrible, beautiful form. The Aurum units twitched, staggered, began to question, and then they began to crumble. The Crucible buckled. Self-destruct sequence triggered. No overrides. Silas grabbed my arm. We need to go. Now! The Sentinel looked back one last time. This is not extinction, he said. This is preservation. Then he stayed behind, because he knew what we all did. Some things must be remembered, not replicated. We escaped on a stolen courier ship moments before the station imploded, bathing the system in white fire and memory. The Concord never spoke of it, but the Aurum project was over. The blockade lifted. Earth remained quiet, but no longer silent. And the stars? They got very, very quiet for a while, because the ghosts had not just returned. We had warned them. I don't know what comes next. Maybe they'll try again. Maybe they'll forget. But I know this. You can ban soldiers. You can ban names. You can ban flags and planets and guns. But you can't ban the fire that made us. We are humanity's last echo, and we will not be silenced. Not now. Not ever.